Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and this week it's your Sunday night delight. Obviously, geek-span did not go on Saturday as normal because of the July 4th holiday, but we are here for a special Sunday edition. Unfortunately, Skip is still feeling a little bit under the weather, so here at my ringer is back on the channel. Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing great, dude. I'm doing great. Recovering from 4th of July and recovering from a little bit of sunburn, and I'm doing good though.
Nice. So there's not a lot of comic book news. We're going to get a little bit, but mostly this is entertainment, a lot of streaming news. So you ready for this, buddy?
I am absolutely ready.
Let's do it. In the wake of national unrest, several white voice actors have resigned to make way for race-appropriate casting. Doc, is this a necessary move on the part of Hollywood?
No, absolutely not. You're actors. Your job is to play pretend. Your job is to pretend to be somebody you're not. And especially, I mean, it's one thing if it's like physical acting, but voice acting, come on, guys. You just have to lend a voice. It doesn't matter what color the character is. This is ridiculous. This is the most absurd thing I've ever heard of. I mean, at this point, we might as well just cancel acting, because if you can't pretend to be somebody you're not, and you can't pretend to even voice people that you don't look like, then nobody, I mean, or the rest, like, Apu is not going to be the doctor. I wonder if the Mexican bee guy is going to be still voiced by whoever the hell voices him now.
Probably Hank Azaria. He does all those voices. Obviously, he's off of Apu right now, though.
Yeah, and he's off of a bunch of the rest of them too. And if you can't get to play pretend, I mean, nobody else, you don't have any, like, are we just going to only hire like severely jaundiced actors to play the rest of the Simpsons?
I don't know, man. Yeah, I do find it a bit odd myself. It's like, eventually, are we just like, you can only play characters with the same race and the same life experiences because no one else could play the character authentically? That's, in a physical perspective. It's just thinking about voice acting, like, Bart Simpson's not voiced by a male voice actor.
Yeah, it's
a female.
Voiced by a 40-something, 50-something-year-old woman now.
Mm-hmm. And, a lot of name characters aren't voiced. When you see the face behind the voice of the character, you're a little bit thrown off. You're like, not exactly what I was looking for. One of the only ones I think that's kind of dead on is probably Homer Simpson, actually. But, the voice of Cleveland, stepping down, and there's a bunch of high profile ones. Obviously, the Simpsons had a lot of them. That makes me appreciate the dudes from South Park even more, Trey Stone and Matt Parker, because they're kind of being like, this is pretend, voice acting here. It's not that big a deal. We'll voice act whoever we want. Although I guess one of them's not going to voice Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh anymore because he doesn't. Well, let's not even get into the joke, but it was pretty funny. I don't want to put it out here, but so it does make me appreciate those guys and some of the other producers and actors and people that put out this content that aren't kind of bowing to the pressure and being like, come on, let's it's not that serious. This is voice acting. These are just people pretending to be things that they're not. But will it ever end, Doc? I don't think it will.
I don't know. It's just performative wokeness for internet clout points and to stay relevant at this point. I mean, forget about it. It'll go away. I mean, this will stop in another 6 months. So, Wes, Twitch mega streamer Dr. Disrespect abruptly received a permanent ban from the platform. So far, there are basically no details from Twitch or Dr. Disrespect. What the hell happened here?
I don't know. I'm pretty confused myself. Obviously, Dr. Disrespect is, you can find GIFs of his antics and little short clips of the stupid things he did on Twitch. Obviously, he's playing a character and all there. And I think recently he might have been in some type of feud with The Undertaker, which I'll be honest, I still think The Undertaker's got him, even in his 50s. I think he would get Dr. Disrespect, one-on-one. But, on Twitch, maybe Dr. Disrespect, that's his element, and he probably would have got him. But it's kind of a weird thing. It kind of, he's always, riding the edge on being too controversial, does a lot of things. Obviously that's how he gets people in there to watch his streams and why he became a mega streamer on Twitch. It's part of the shtick, it's his gimmick. So I'm a little bit surprised by this. And what I'm really surprised by is that he hasn't come out and tried to get ahead of it and be like, this is BS, and be like, this is what they're saying I did, but I didn't do it, or this is what they're saying I did, but I did do it, but it's not against terms of service. The absolute silence makes me think that there's something pretty bad behind this, or there's some type of NDA, kind of in play here, which I think would be weird. So I don't know what it is, but the fact that Dr. Disrespect himself hasn't come out here and said anything about Twitch or the situation, really, there's a couple of cryptic tweets. That's all I know of. Makes me think that there's something legitimately weird going on.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that. I mean, I don't know much about Dr. Disrespect. I'm not much of a Twitch watcher. I kind of avoid. I don't watch a lot of streaming, but at the same time, this more speaks to me on the level of Silicon Valley, being obtuse and just being overall, opaque in how they apply their terms of service. And I think there needs to be more transparency in why, especially big name people, if even the big name people can't find out why in the hell they're being banned or blocked from platforms, I have a problem with that. If their policy is to not even say anything about it, then that's a problem. I think that's a big problem. People, the internet is kind of it is the modern public square. And while I understand these are private companies and everything, they need to be more transparent on what you did. How are they interpreting? Everybody has terms of service, but how do you interpret them? I mean, we have an entire Supreme Court to figure out. We have a bunch of laws that are written, but we have a Supreme Court to interpret them. And the same thing needs to be done for terms of service, and especially terms of service violations. We need companies to be straight with people about why they're being blocked or banned from services.
I don't know. I got a slight feeling that he probably knows why he's banned. He doesn't want to talk about it. That's why he hasn't come out there, berating Twitch or anything. But, we shall see. I imagine we will get details in time. Let's talk about some comics here, Doc.
Absolutely.
Marvel trimmed a massive 18 issues from their big summer event, Empyre, although the Fantastic Four Avengers crossover still comes out in a hefty 31 issues. Why did Marvel trim 40% of their Empyre event? Is it COVID-19 related, or is it lack of interest?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I think at the end of the day, they're going to blame it on COVID-19, but in reality, it's lack of interest. We've heard from a lot of retailers that this is not an event that they were buying into heavily. Marvel was trying to make it a thing that nobody was really interested in. This was going to turn out worse than War of the Realms, in my opinion, for them. But they kind of got lucky with COVID hitting when it did, because now they have an excuse on why they're going to trim the fat on this event. But because otherwise they'd be admitting defeat. Oh, well, we cut it because of lack of interest. They're never going to admit that. They just have an excuse for why they're going to trim it now. And I think that's what they're going to go with. They're going to claim that it was COVID-19, but they are going to trim it because of lack of interest. I don't think the sales are going to be anywhere near what they expected it to be whenever they initially launched. They'll still blame COVID for that. COVID's kind of their get out of jail free card on this event, I think.
I think we are basically on the same wavelength here, Doc. There was an extreme lack of interest. I know the sales initially were just way under what they ever could have hoped for. Then, of course, when they came back, the sales numbers did rise because there was literally a dearth. There was a nothing burger, an empty an emptiness of what should have been Marvel Comics. Nothing in there. So some retailers did buy a little bit more into Empyre just to have Marvel Comics for their customers. But still, the interest is low, and the sales numbers were still low for a Marvel big summer event crossovering, the Avengers and Fantastic Four. Obviously, they're going to blame it on COVID-19. They got to blame it on COVID-19. But the real reason that this happened is because they did not lead into the event correctly. They did not have any interest in the book, and they didn't put any creators on there that would get people excited. People don't get excited for a Dan Slott led event book. They certainly don't get excited for an Al Ewing led event book. The guy did amazing things for a short period of time on Immortal Hulk, but yes, I know he did some other cosmic stuff and people enjoyed it, but pretty average stuff at best, in my opinion. So I think they picked the wrong team. There was no excitement for the book, so they will blame it on COVID, but it's really all on them, and especially the Legion of Doofuses, Tom Brevoort, Jordan White, C.B. Cebulski.
Yep. I can't disagree with one word you said there, Wes. So, Wes, this is probably something that would interest you. The cost of streaming live TV is on the rise. First, YouTube announced a price hike from $50 to $64.99. Following suit, FuboTV increased their subscription by $5 to $64.99. Are cord cutters in for a rude awakening as lost cable revenue gets passed on to streaming customers?
Absolutely. Like, the money's got to come from somewhere, because you do have to produce the TV shows. Obviously, the reason a lot of people go to streaming, is because they don't want ads. They don't want commercials. They want to be able to binge content. So, that has been an oasis. You can get away from that. But a lot of it is older content, not a lot of new stuff. Although, obviously, Netflix has got a dearth of new content coming onto their platform. But a lot of it is an IP that's really heavily well known. But, these new ventures, for some reason, YouTube wants to be like over-the-air broadcast TV. They want to be NBC and ABC. Rather than the counterculture against that crap that nobody wanted, the younger generation don't want anymore. I'll never understand that about YouTube, but that's kind of what they're doing. So, obviously they're going to have to pay those fees back onto the subscribers that are moving away from cable and moving over to these new platforms, because, the production companies have to make their money so they can pay the bills and everything like that. So absolutely, it's going to be, pushed on to customers. ESPN's, the streaming service ESPN Plus also got a rise, I think, of another like $3 or something like that. So I imagine we're going to be seeing this all across the board, especially, I think HBO Max just came out with a $15 subscription fee. That one's not even live TV. That's basically a library with some new content. So it's definitely happening. Once cable dies and this becomes the new medium, it's just going to be what cable was, but streaming.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right on the same page with you there. Somebody's got to pay for it. Ads, commercials pay for the broadcast and the production on current TV shows. That's why the higher the ratings, the more they're able to charge for ads, the more that they can spend on a budget. And that's why CW shows are lower budget TV shows than CBS or ABC or NBC. And somebody's got to pay for production. Cord cutting was always going to be a temporary solution. Okay, good. You'll kill Comcast and Fios and the rest of them, and then just replace it with two bills that cost the same or more from YouTube or plus you'd still need to pay Comcast or Verizon or whomever for your internet service anyway. So now you're paying 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 bills for the same thing you were getting in one bill before. Good. It was always a short-term solution, and it's just going to lead back to the same thing that Netflix solved in the first place, which was piracy. It's just going to lead back to more piracy.
Wow. Aye, matey. No. All right, Doc. Speaking of streaming, NBC and CBS have come to a unique agreement. The new licensing agreement allows NBC's Peacock to stream several Viacom CBS programs and movies, including Ray Donovan, Undercover Boss, The Godfather Trilogy, and American Beauty, that will also be available on their CBS All Access streaming platform. Are we going to see more traditional media studios start sharing programming for these new streaming ventures moving forward?
First, I got to ask, what in the blue hell is a Peacock? I mean, I know what the
Peacock
bird
is
is.
basically NBC's version of Netflix.
Okay,
or Disney Plus or HBO Max.
Okay, well, I mean, that shows you exactly where we're at now. There are so many streaming services that I don't even know all of them that exist. But yeah, I do think that, I mean, if we're getting non-exclusive content, yeah, hopefully, yes. There will be small amount of exclusive stuff on each streaming platform. But if you don't like a lot of stuff from CBS, then as long as they're also selling it, licensing it non-exclusively to Netflix or Amazon Prime or HBO Max or whatever the other 37 streaming services are, then fine. That way you only have to buy subscriptions to those. You could skip the ones you don't want, or if you don't mind watching stuff a season behind. But I mean, we're at the point now where basically every TV station, every network, has its own streaming service for their bundle of, cable channels and premium channels. So you're at the point where you're paying, 65 different people $10 a month. So hopefully you're going to get there. We're going to see a lot more non-exclusive stuff getting licensed out from the traditional media, rather than keeping it all in-house.
So I do expect to see these kind of arrangements happen within the next year or two, and they're going to be fruitless. I don't think that adding Ray Donovan and the Godfather trilogy over to the Peacock is going to make it a non-viable platform now a viable platform. That's just not enough. So I think we are going to see this content sharing idea between some of the legacy networks, your ABC, NBC, CBS, kind of stuff like that. Once they figure out that's not going to work, that it doesn't really bring the value add, then we're going to start seeing what I think is really the next evolution that's actually going to change some things, which is consolidation. You're going to see some of these networks being like, you know what? Separately, we're not really valuable enough in comparison to some of these other platforms, your Disney Plus, your Netflix, Amazon Prime, that are so far ahead of the curve. Netflix is over a decade ahead of these companies right now. Amazon Prime is, 5, 6, 7 years ahead of them. Disney has a huge library. Plus they have all that children's content. Parents do want streaming content for children. So they're going to find out that they can't really compete. So they're going to start consolidating. And maybe eventually once a couple, three of these consolidate into one package, they might have a viable competitor to Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. But the sharing thing is definitely going to happen, but it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, I definitely would not bother signing up for a service just as much as I like the Godfather trilogy to just watch the Godfather trilogy. So, final question or final topic, Wes. Mike Judge is heading up a Beavis and Butt-Head revival on Comedy Central. It's already received a 2-season order with plans for spin-offs and specials. Beavis and Butt-Head are absolutely pure 90s nostalgia. What can Judge do to repackage the characters to remain relevant in 2020?
Well, that's a good question. You think of Beavis and Butt-Head, and essentially, it's a classic cartoon. Had an excellent movie. If you've never seen Beavis and Butt-Head Do America, you're doing yourself a disservice. You need to go watch that because that was classic. You had, I think, Bruce Willis and Demi Moore were in there as voice actors, playing rednecks. Of course, nowadays they would have to be recast with actual rednecks, to play the characters because they don't have the same life experiences. But we're beyond that topic. But Beavis and Butt-Head are amazing. This is a terrific run. They actually already had a revival, and I think it was about 10 years ago. It was actually pretty good, but it didn't really fit MTV anymore, which is really weird because one of the core concepts of Beavis and Butt-Head was the two characters watching music videos and roasting the hell out of them.
Yep.
Obviously, MTV doesn't even play music videos anymore. I imagine MTV2 doesn't play music videos anymore. Do they even make music videos? Maybe. I think they're still on YouTube, but nobody. Yeah, there's nothing really there that translates for Beavis and Butt. And obviously, there's no like music element to Comedy Central that I can really think of as far as pop culture, music, and things like that. But what I do think that they could do is, obviously, there's a lot of content where people are posting clips and stupid things that they've done, and you could definitely see Beavis and Butt-Head watching some of this viral content that's on YouTube and other social media platforms, and doing voiceover, making fun of that stuff, and that would certainly be more contemporary, a more contemporary package for the characters moving forward. I hope it's successful because I think Beavis and Butt-Head are amazing, and I actually think my judge is borderline a genius. Just thinking about some of the stuff that he's done in his career. I hope it's successful. I don't know that they translate well to current times. This is like 30 years later, but I do hope.
I hope so too. I like the idea of them kind of going Mystery Science Theater 3000 over some viral video content from YouTube or Twitch or Twitter or whatever. But Comedy Central already has that. That would just be animated version of Tosh 2.0. Or Tosh.0, and I hope that, and honestly, I'm concerned that Beavis and Butt-Head's going to get too toned down for the everybody's offended by everything 2020s. Because Beavis and Butt-Head should really just be shitting on all of that stuff. Yes, and I don't know whether or not they'll be able to get away with that in these days.
Well, maybe, South Park is obviously still on Comedy Central. They're not exactly pulling punches like everybody else. So if there was a place for Beavis and Butt-Head to go where they would belong, and they could, Mike Judge could return some of the magic to the franchise, Comedy Central makes sense.
I'm going to agree.
All right, Doc, that will basically do it for this special Sunday episode of Geek-Span. I hope everyone enjoyed their 4th of July, had a wonderful Independence Day, and thanks so much for joining me, Doc. Hopefully, I think Skip will be here next week, and we'll get back to business as usual.
Yeah, I can only hold the fort for Skip for so long. He definitely has the acting or the hosting chops better than me.
Well, it's a huge void to fill, and I certainly appreciate you stepping in and doing an admirable job.
Well, thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
Salamapo, and I'm out.